Local radio for local people.
It's all here for you, traffic and travel, what's on guide, great songs and great memories on Gravity FM.
Your community, your radio, 97.2.
Gravity.
Gravity FM.
I'd like to welcome Barrie Pierpoint. It is point and not pont. I always get this mixed up, Barrie. Which one is it?
It's the end of Pierpoint.
Point, right, Pierpoint. Now, Barrie, you're getting involved with Grantham Town Football Club. Before we move on to the football, though, let's find out a little bit about you then, if you don't mind me asking. You're obviously a businessman who's got interested in football as well as part of the business side. But where did it all start for you? Let's just say, what was your career aims as a youngster?
If you want to talk about my younger days, which was a long time ago, I was about 14, 15. I can remember I wanted to be a bus driver, believe it or not.
Really?
That's a long, long time ago. I don't know why. Then I wanted to be a teacher, and I still went off that idea. But no, I've always been sort of slightly entrepreneurial at a very young age of about 18, 19, 20. And I've worked in a whole region of different sort of businesses. But when I was 21, it's a long time ago, I ran 6 petrol stations, and I was still like an operator of 6 service stations, and I had about 30 staff, and I was 21 years of age, and that's
That was some achievement.
Quite achievement, and that was in Nottingham, because I was born in Nottingham, so I'm a Nottingham lad. And then I've done all sorts of things. I worked for the Chamber of Commerce in Nottingham. I've worked in publishing. I've worked in a whole range of things. But I suppose really where my career really took off was when I was living in Somerset, and I was approached to become one of the first marketing directors in football. And I went for an interview. There was about 250 people went for this job, and I was approached to go for the job as well. And after about 5 interviews with 5 different sets of people at the football club, at Leicester this was, I became the marketing director after about 7 or 8 months of interviews. So it's a very strange process to go through. And that's where my life sort of went into sport in a big way, because Leicester City Football Club in 1990 was a struggling football club in then the sort of second division. There's a Division 1 and Division 2. And I know that I joined them in the April, and if they had not played the games right and won the right number of points, they would have gone into Division 3. But luckily we stayed into Division 2. And my job there was the marketing director, was to raise the profile of the football club, gain lots of revenue, and start really making the commercial side of football a lot more business-like, because the football club basically had people paying to go and watch the games, but had no real commercial activity. So coming out of industry from Somerset and then moving into Leicestershire, I ended up sort of in a football club which was really, Leicester City at the time was really almost bankrupt, and it was sort of taking a turnover of about £1 million and a loss of £1 million, so it wasn't doing very well. And my office was the size of a toilet with no windows in, very old stadium run down. And I had this big sheet of paper, like I got it now in front of me, a blank sheet of paper, and I had to write down all the things I was going to do to increase the revenue and to basically to take the club forward. So that's where it all started really for me.
Right, there must have been some tough decisions then, because having been sort of, let's say, stagnant for a while in the old ways, to try and bring in a new modern approach to bring in revenues. Did you find much opposition?
No, I think what I found that the staff that when I first went to work there were very sort of limited in their thinking, and I found it very regimental, and I found it very old-fashioned. And bear in mind that supporters are very passionate people, and we had about 8,000 supporters at Leicester. and there are probably about a couple of thousand season ticket holders. I say this is in the early 90s. But what I found was that we didn't treat them very well. And I came out of industry where customer was king, and people who paid money to do something in your business were looked after. What I did find was that Leicester City did not look after their supporters very well. They didn't treat them with respect. They sold them rubbishy pies and rubbishy stuff that they used to buy in the kiosks, and they used to kick them around like sheep in a pen. So, sort of cattle and sheep. So, my attitude was we're going to change all that. They didn't have a very good community profile. They certainly didn't get on very well with the city council, and the directors were very sort of introverted and thought they were the bee's knees and really didn't sort of care about anybody or anything. So that's what I found about football. It was very insular, very sort of take it or leave it attitude, and I couldn't accept that, having coming out of a business, out of industry, into a sporting environment, to sort of find that everything I'd done differently didn't apply. So I went about changing everything, upset a lot of people, and cleared a few people out on the way. And as my job
was that tough to have to do that?
It's always tough either to fire people or to move people on, but people who weren't going to change were stuck in their ways and didn't want to change, and they saw me, and bear in mind this is going back 20 odd years ago, they saw me as a revolutionary and coming in and sort of changing things and improving things, and they didn't want that because they were quite sort of settled and happy how it had always been. There was a lot of resistance, and I said, well, I'm going that way, you either come with me or you fall out the door behind me. So those who didn't want to come with me fell out the door behind me, and those who came with me realised what I was trying to achieve. But I think it was all about consultation and communication, and also setting out my vision. I had a very tall order. I had to go and raise £6 million for a new stand at Leicester City, and that from an organisation that really didn't care about anything or anybody was quite a mean feat.
That is a mean feat, having to raise that amount of money. Tell me, just on a personal basis, how did you feel being involved with Leicester City, having come from Nottingham, because of the rivalry between Forest and Leicester?
Well, the thing was, my father was a keen football fan, and he used to go and watch Forest one week and Notts County the next. So I never really quite sure which team I supported. I supported both, really. One week it was one week it was the other, because he always went to the home games, and they always used to play opposite weeks. But I saw football till the early ages of about 15, 16. Then, like everything else, you go and do other things, and you come out of football, and I basically didn't really bother about it until I ended up going back into it as a job.
Right, well, you've given us a good bit of background there. We're just going to take a quick break now, Barrie, and we'll be back in a few moments' time, and we'll sort of move on a bit about what you hope you'll be able to do here in Grantham. But before we get to Grantham, we'll sort of recap one or two things about Leicester, because I think there's quite a lot of success achieved in your time, and we'll find out about that as well. It's 18 minutes past 3. You're with me, Dennis Kay, and I'm talking to Barrie Pierpoint, who is now involved with Grantham Town Football Club. And hopefully, with his involvement, Grantham is going to grow, and we're going to see a lot of success, both on and off the field. That's what we're hoping for in Grantham. We like to support our own teams, and, well, the future looks good. We'll find out more in a few moments' time.
Interesting guests, fascinating facts, and great music. It's all here for you with Dennis Kay.
Welcome back. Well, we're talking Grantham Town Football Club, and we've got with us Barrie Pierpoint. Barrie, just before we move on to Grantham, you mentioned Leicester City. Now, it must have been thrilling working for a big club like that and seeing it grow, and the success side of things. Because I would imagine I'm just trying to think, when you were there, and this is just off the top of my head, who would be the manager? Brian Little? No, he can't.
No, it's right. It says it was actually there was a manager just leaving as I arrived, and Brian Little came the month later.
Right.
So Brian and I got on very well together, and bear in mind, I say I never worked in football before, and Brian obviously was an ex-player, and also I think he came from, is it Arlington he came from, I think, to Leicester, and we got on very well together. And what I did, I set a vision out what I'd like to do off the field, and Brian did exactly the same on the field, and we worked very closely till he went off to Aston Villa.
Brilliant.
So he was very supportive of all the things we did. We actually, in my early years at Leicester City, was a lot of it was about relationship building bridges to the community, building bridges to the local authority, giving value for money to the supporters, making sure supporters were looked after. Brian had very little money to spend on players. And I got no money for marketing, although I managed to get some money out of the club for some marketing. We really together we're a very good team. He actually took us to Wembley 2 or 3 times in his reign at Leicester City, and I managed to actually grow the commercial side, by millions of pounds over a period of time.
Sounds like a dream story, really.
Well, it was a shame because when he left, obviously, and then I worked with Mark McGee, who was only with us for a year, and then he went off to Wolves, and then of course I ended up working with Martin O'Neill, who was here at Grantham.
Of course, this was his first professional manager's job. Here at Grantham.
He had a very dodgy start to start with, but was highly successful as he carried on at Leicester. And of course he was very successful, and of course he eventually moved just after I left. He went to Celtic, as you know.
Yep, and well, it's nice to know he started his managerial career here in Grantham. And as regards yourself, you were there for how long?
About 10 years.
10 years, so you saw so many changes for the better. And that's inspired you really to do the same thing in other clubs, hasn't it? You've also worked elsewhere.
Well, I went from, at Leicester, I managed to take a commercial business from about 100 grand to 8 million in 10 years. And the football club went from about 1 or 2 million to 24 million in that time. We also floated the club in '97, which we raised £12 million, which Martin needed to buy some decent players and for us to stay in the Premier League. And we grew all the businesses. The catering business went from nothing to 3 million. The retail business went almost from nothing to about 2.5 million. And then we had all the sponsorships and all the community partnershiping and all the other schemes that we ran, money-making schemes. And as I say, we ended up with about £8 million worth of commercial activity. When by the time I left, I was involved in looking at the new stadium that was built after I'd gone, but unfortunately I wasn't around to see that finish. But no, it was an interesting time. Is it
okay to ask why you left?
It is interesting. It was what I would call a boardroom squabble. There was a little bit of split in the board. There was me as a CEO. There was about 5 or 6 other directors, and there was a PLC company, and there was a football club company, and it all got a bit messy, and then there was a bit of a squabble at the end, and I and 3 others came out. So it was basically politics, really. Yeah.
You moved on though and stayed in football, didn't you?
I went to Portsmouth then. I was approached by Milan Mandrick to go to Portsmouth, and I did a year down there with him, which I just said I'd do a year because I lived in Leicestershire at the time, and of course Portsmouth's a long way away. And I did a year with him. Then I did a year at Bradford. They just built a new stand, and they wanted some help there, so I went to CEO there. I came out of football, and then I had my own business for about 4 or 5 years, advertising, marketing and PR business, and then I went back into football to Boston to look at buying Boston.
All close rivals to us.
Yeah, well, there was a consortium in Leeds who wanted to buy Boston, and I was put there by them to spend a year there looking through all the books. And
would this be in the... How long ago are we talking?
About 2005, 2006.
Steve Evans was there.
That's right, he was, yes. You're very knowledgeable, aren't you?
and Gaza.
It wasn't there when I was there. It was Jim Rodwell was the CEO, and I went in as an advisor, and I spent a year going through everything. And my hair curled and my eyes went, and I found all sorts of interesting stuff there in those days.
Right. So that was your last football.
That was the last football club. Then I've done other work in between. I mean, I've been a chairman of a semi-professional club at Ibstock. I've done some work in Melton Mowbray with a football club there, which I'm still involved with. And then I was approached by Grantham. By the chairman through our friend Mr. Darren Bills, who I'll never forgive for pointing me in this direction, who wanted me to get involved with Grantham. And then I met the chairman in early December in Asda in Boston. We had a coffee together, which is quite an unusual place to meet somebody, but we did. And he wanted me to come as a director of the club.
Had you ever been, I mean, obviously Grantham's not too far away from wherever.
I live north of Boston.
Yeah, but had you ever been in Grantham or seen the club play?
I've been to Grantham Town Football Club some years ago, in the stadium it is in now, through that by association with Leicester. But I've not actually come and watched lots of games, no. I mean, I wasn't really bothered about getting involved in football again. It's just that the chairman was very persuasive and he wanted me to join them. But I had 2 or 3 meetings with some of the directors, and clear to me was I didn't want to be a director because I didn't think the club was where it should be.
Right. So what role have you accepted then? You're not a director?
No, not a director, no. What I said I would do for them is I just felt that the club had no direction, had no strength, no vision. It hadn't really got any ambition. And I'm not being unkind when I say that, because, you know, you've got people who are working full-time in jobs coming to be a director of a football club, and they can only give so much of their time.
I think it's that difference between, obviously, non-league and league, where the supporters and the people involved are more doing it from the heart, rather than from pure business side, and that, you know, it's dedication, isn't it, from local people?
It is, and it's. I mean, I think there's a lovely little club here, and I mean, it's very fortunate to have its own stadium. And in the stadium, I think has been sort of let go a bit. It needs a bit of TLC and a bit of refurbishment.
But technically, isn't that the council's responsibility?
Well, it is the council stadium. They own it, and I'm not knocking the council because they pay a contractor to look after it, I suppose. But because I'm new there, and I look at things as an outsider, and I stood outside that stadium, and I thought, well, it's a nice stadium, but it's not
this
really.
Could be done, and that could be
well,
done.
It's not. It was almost as if somebody had, gone around with a hatchet and smashed it to bits. It needs decorating, it needs repairing, it needs some tender loving care. It needs a bit of people to be looking after it and making sure it's okay.
Right. Yeah. Well, that looks like plans are already going around your mind. We'll find out a little bit more about what you think can be done at Grantham. We're talking to Barrie Pierpoint, and he's taken over at Grantham. He's going to be doing the marketing and the PR side. Now, what do you see ahead for Grantham Town, Barrie?
Well, I'm going to do a lot of things, actually. I'm going to be the chief executive, which is really like sort of coordinating the whole thing, because, as I said to you earlier on, there's no real coordination of the club. The people come on a match day, do the bit and go home, but there's lots of things happening behind the scenes, and I think a football club needs to have somebody to spearhead it and take it and to generally pull everything together, work with the volunteers, work with the 1 or 2 paid staff, work with the directors, and making sure, and the supporters, making sure that everything's all taking part and fitting in and happening, because I found it very disjointed when I went there as a guest on match day, because nobody knew what was going on and things weren't sorted out, nobody communicated with each other. So my job is to go in there, pull it all together, make sure that the club goes forward, look at ways of raising more finance, look at ways of raising more sponsorship, look at commercial opportunities, make sure the communication's good, make sure that we've got the right volunteers doing the right things, making sure that the MCS centre is generating revenue through its catering and whatever, and making sure the fans are looked after, and making sure that everything runs smooth, and people can start to be proud of it. So, and I'm only doing it 2 days a week and plus match day, so I'm actually giving my time up for nothing, because I run a business as well, to do this. But I think if I'm going to do this, rather than be a director and mess about, I'm not saying directors do mess about, but they're not doing on things like I think they should be doing.
Yeah, you want to take a direct approach.
Yeah, well, somebody needs to pull the thing together and lead it and take it on and move it on and generally run the day-to-day side of it. So I'm happy to do that and get it to a level where I feel comfortable that one day I might become a director.
Yeah. Can you see then a lot of potential here?
Well, first of all, you've got a stadium, which I think is important. You've got a stadium which I do think needs some slight refurbishment and touching up and tidying up and a bit of maintenance and some TLCing. You've got a very loyal fan base of about 300 or 400 people. I think that could be more, and I think people have probably been and come and gone in the past. Like in any football club, there's always been historical issues. There's been somebody didn't like this, somebody came in and tried to do that, somebody came in with a bright idea, somebody brought loads of money and then took it away, and you have all these sort of issues and problems as you do in football, and consequently some of the fan base drifts off. We've got to get young people coming in and supporting the club, because when you're going to coming in and supporting the club, they stay with you hopefully, and we're going to get some of the fans that used to come back to the club who probably have had a raw deal and not been looked after, and we need to then make sure that we've got enough revenue so we can get the right players on board, help the managers to get the right players, and then give the club some success. I'm not a great believer of just asking directors to keep putting their hands in the pocket and just keep writing checks out, or constantly just putting money in, because that's too easy.
And also you want to get the community more involved as well. You need to raise money, but it's got to be a football club that actually appeals to the local people, hasn't it?
I think the community football club is all about local people supporting the local club, getting involved. I mean, we've got a lot of volunteers who work with us, and we need more. And it's all about this is Grantham's football club. It's not a Lincolnshire football club. It's not Lincoln City Football Club. It's Grantham, and it's a community town, a community football club. And I'm a great believer that a football club should be the heart of the community. I think we should be doing lots of things. Football is our core business, and it happens once a week on a Saturday and sometimes in an evening match. But the rest of the week we have a stadium there, we have got facilities there, and we should be doing other things to generate revenues and income and making some money to put into the football club off the back of it. And when I was at Leicester City and Portsmouth and Bradford and all the places I've worked at in the professional clubs, the facilities were there 6 days a week. We had to fill it with people doing things, eating, drinking, meetings, conference, seminars, dinner dances, whatever. And that money then went into the football club, and that's what I think we should be doing at Grantham.
I totally agree with you. I like your philosophy. Same with us here at Gravity FM. We're a radio station. We serve the community, and we like to encourage the community, both on and off the station premises. We go to events and things like that, and again, just like the football club, money is the thing. You've got to have money to survive, haven't you?
Well, you've got finances, but the thing is, we're selling packages, we're selling sponsorships, we're selling advertising, we're selling a whole heap of things. And then if you sell something, you've got to deliver it. And I think probably in the past, sometime, Grantham sold things to people and have not delivered what they expect. We had a sporting dinner the other week. We had Lee Sharp there and a comedian. Lovely evening, very entertaining. We had 120 people there who all had an enjoyable evening, a 3-course dinner, a sports speaker, football club speaker, and a comedian. Lovely evening, as I say, and we make some money out of that. Well, we probably do those 3, 4, 5 times a year, and I think we could do them better, and I think we can do more of them, and that's another way that we can get the public involved, because people like sport. They like
of course. And they like the celebrity style of things, in entertainment.
People having pictures taken with him anyway, so obviously that was
brilliant.
Very important.
I thoroughly agree with you there. It brings something special to Grantham as well. I mean, I like the ideas that you're talking about. Obviously, it's early days yet, but have you given yourself a sort of a time frame?
Well, I spoke about 3 years, and I think if you work on the basis that I was doing it full time and it was a job and I had to get paid by results, and I think I'd have to do it within 18 months, 2 years. But I think 3 years, because a lot of things have got to change there, and I think people don't like change, and you've got some people who've been there a long time, always used to doing it this way, always want it done that way. Well, I think Grantham needs to come out of the 1990s, and we're going to need to change the way we do things. We need to improve things. I don't think change for change's sake. I'm talking about changes for improving things and making things better. We've got to think differently, act differently, and we've also got to be a lot more progressive, and a lot more progressive in our thinking, our doing, and making things happen. And we've got to generate more interest. We've got to generate more fans. We've got to generate more revenues, and we've got to make the club a successful club that people are proud to belong to, and people that want to be associated with it. And I think that's what it's going to take to make that happen. I talk a good story. I've got to deliver it, and everywhere I've talked a good story, I've delivered it. And I think the thing is, I'm going to deliver it here as well.
You do talk a good story, and I'd love to be able to talk more to you. We've still got a few minutes left today, but I do hope that you'll keep us informed of the progress that you're making. And I do know that you do like radio yourself, because you've been involved with the radio station, haven't you?
Well, I've been in hospital broadcasting many years ago. I was a director of Leicester Sound many years ago. I've always had an interest in broadcasting. I enjoy broadcasting. I enjoy dealing with people. I probably prefer live broadcasting and going out and about meeting people, as I did when I did hospital radio and visiting all the patients in the ward. So
I know that well, yes.
So I do enjoy broadcasting, and I do enjoy meeting people, and I think life's all about people anyway.
Well, you'll be very welcome here anytime, Barry. Maybe have your own programme eventually. You never know. Anyway, we're going to play a song now, because we've got a quick break to take as well. And we'll be back with Barrie Pierpoint, and he'll be just outlining some of the things that he's got in mind for Grantham Town. And if you've got a quick question, because it's already 3:42, you can email studio@gravityfm.net, or you could phone 577 522, or text the word gravity followed by your question to 60300. I know it's a little bit late in the afternoon now. People are going to collect. Oh no, they're not going to collect the kids today, are they? It's half term. But if you've got the opportunity and you want to ask a quick question, then by all means do. Maybe we'll have a longer time for you to do this and get them all on paper so that Barry can come back another time as well. But it's very interesting, the plans for Grantham Town, and we know that Barry's going to put a lot of energy into it, and we hope that Grantham Town will grow and grow and grow.
Whatever the weather, let Dennis Kay bring a little sunshine into your life.
Right then, welcome back. We've got 11 minutes left, and I'm with Barrie Pierpoint from Grantham Town Football Club. And Barry, your plans for Grantham, to make it more attractive to go to the football club by improving the stadium and getting Grantham noticed, I would imagine. That's the big plan, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I'm starting from the ground floor, working up. I'm talking to fans, finding out what they like and dislike. I've had lots of one-to-one meetings with the directors. I've got all the volunteers and one-to-one meetings with them. I'm actually trying to find out what your phone's ringing now, is it? Yeah, I'm trying to find out what people want from the club. I'm trying to then make sure that we give them the right sort of experience on a match day, because I don't think they're getting the best experience at the moment. I can't do anything about the pitch and the playing. It's not my remit. We have a manager there, or two managers there, Jimmy and Wayne. That's their job. I wouldn't want to think of interfering in their role in that. I don't think they want to interfere in my role. So, we work together, but they have to look after that, and that's their side of the bargain. My side of the bargain is making sure everything else up to that point is right and correct.
What about the board? I mean, already one or two changes. You've got a new director just last week, haven't you? So is the board being strengthened?
I think the board needs to be strengthened. I think they've got about 4 or 5 directors at the moment, and I don't think a club this size that's enough. I think they do things like they have duties on a match day. They have to do things also because we have different tasks that the directors do, and I think they're stretched at times. And we need to get more investment in from people who want to be a director, but they need to have the right skill set. They need to have the right attitude. They've got to come in and A, put the hand in the pocket, and B, they've got to be prepared to do a bit of work as well.
Well, that is really the essential part of it, isn't it? Getting people involved.
But what I'd like to do is I'd like to get some more volunteers. I mean, I do need a lot of people on the marketing side, on the admin, on match days. I do need some volunteers who can help with fundraising, selling the commercial packages. We do need a lot of people to come in. I'm a great believer. You know, don't have 4 or 5 volunteers doing everything. I'd rather have 50 volunteers doing a bit each.
I know that feeling, and I totally agree with you. There you go, everybody. There's a chance. If you've got an interest in football and you'd like to help Grantham Town Football Club, volunteers are needed. And it's not just for the sort of the dirty jobs or the cleaning or something like that. It's for all sorts of different roles. And take pride in your football club. Barry, we haven't got the time today to really take questions now, but what we might do is, open up the question bank and maybe invite you back. Have a list of questions that our listeners have asked, if that's all right with you.
Well, I'd like to find out from people out there in Grantham who used to be supporters and why they don't support us anymore.
Yeah.
I'd like to find out if anybody has had a bad experience. I'd like to find out how we can improve the club. I'd like to take suggestions from people where they think that we could do something different or change the way we do things. Or basically, I'm very open to ideas, suggestions, and I have a very open mind. I don't come with any preconceived ideas about Grantham. I come with a very open mind, and I want people to come and talk to me. What I don't want to do is harp on to the past and just keep going over the same old ground. What this went wrong, that went wrong, and he did that.
No, it's a fresh start, isn't it?
A fresh start, and actually, I can't do anything about the past, and the past is never going to come back and visit it again. So I'd like to draw a line under that, and I'm happy to hear some of the issues that people suffered or didn't get delivered. But then I want to go forward and move on, because my time is more important to me about moving on rather than going backwards.
Great. It's a great philosophy to have, and I'm sure things are going to happen at Grantham Town. Now, as you mentioned that you're not getting personally involved with the playing side, but playing football costs money nowadays, so you'll be looking to try and maybe attract funding so that Grantham could possibly buy players or give them a wage that's attractive, do you think?
We do actually pay all our players.
Yeah.
Various amounts, and my attitude about paying is that if you pay somebody, you expect something from them.
And get a good job from them. Yeah.
Well, you do, and you expect people to have a commitment and passion and deliver something. If I was a supporter of any football club, never mind Grantham, and I'm paying somebody to go and watch some people play football, I want to see the passion, I want to see the skills, I want to see them, really take the club forward. And it's not just about me paying my money and just taking everything for granted that's given to me. I'd like to see that the players have their side of the bargain too. That is to get the teams to work better, play better, and work well together so that they're successful, get the results, and put the club where it should be. They're the top of the table.
That sounds brilliant. What do you think of the possibility of Grantham maybe getting into the conference?
Well, I think if you don't have any ambition in life, or you've got no objectives or anything to achieve, or you've got no vision, you won't go anywhere in life. I mean, anything's possible if you've got the right attitude, the right people, the right sort of, the right strategy to get there. It might take us a few years to get there, but I think Grantham's had its high days, gone into low days, and now I think we're sort of...
You're on the way up again.
Well, hopefully on the way up again, and it's going to take time, but it's all about sustainability and keeping it in there and making it go forward rather than just keep going up and down like a yo-yo.
Brilliant. Well, I'm sure. I can sense with you there is a passion there as well. It is a business, but you're committed to the passion of encouraging people and getting that community spirit going, aren't you?
I find it a challenge. I've come to do this not because I'm getting paid a wacky great sum of money, because I'm not.
No.
I've not come to this because I'm a Grantham person, because I'm not. But I've come to do this because I'm passionate about the opportunity. I'm passionate about the challenge. I think the people of Grantham and the supporters of Grantham have had good days, bad days, and in between days. But I'm a great believer that if I'm going to do something, I say I'm going to do it, I've got to deliver it. And everywhere I've been in football, I've delivered. And I've gone through hoops, over mountains, I've gone underground, and I've gone all over the place to get there. And I will do exactly the same for Grantham whilst I am here until they don't want me anymore.
Barry, that's a fantastic philosophy. And I do appreciate you coming in and really telling us all of your ambition for Grantham. I'll tell you what, we will try and convince you that Grantham is such a nice place. We'll get you to come and live here eventually.
Well, I'm not far away, about 30 miles away. So I'm living in Lincolnshire, so that's a start.
Yeah. Barrie Pierpoint, thank you so much for coming in today. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I hope this is the first of many chats we can have.
I hope so too. I've enjoyed it. Thank you for having me in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Visit our website, gravityfm.net. Local radio for local people.
On Gravity FM.